Porn addiction changes your brain just like drugs do. In this video, I'm going to talk about the effects of high-frequency porn use on the brain. So I'm going to get into it really quickly. According to a new research study, porn addiction affects your brain similarly to addiction to substances. So the research findings are simply this, and I quote, "The effects of internet pornography addiction on brain functional connectivity in the prefrontal lobe exhibit characteristics similar to those of drug addiction." So the findings are pretty clear, but in this video I'm going to get into the methodology of the study and get a little deeper into the findings and apply them to what it means in the real world. This new study looks at how porn consumption affects brain function, cognitive performance, and emotional response. And the purpose of the study is to look at how repeated exposure to pornographic stimuli might affect the brain, similar to how repeated exposure to drugs affects an addict's brain. Now, the methodology of the study comprises of 21 participants. 16 of the participants are considered low-frequency porn users, or 5 of the users are considered high frequency of consumption porn users. Now, the cognitive performance is measured through something called the Stroop word and color test. This is a pretty basic cognitive task where you have to match the word with the color, and the word will be paired with a certain color, and it'll be in increasing intervals, the color will change and the word will be different. So say green is paired with green, and then later you could get fire truck paired with yellow. So your brain is seeing the fire truck thinking of red, but the color is yellow. So you have to notice the discrepancy between the two and pick the right word from the right color. And so this is a gauge of cognitive performance. And then the study also employs the FNIRS instrument to look at the brain function of the individuals in the study. FNIRS is functional near-infrared spectroscopy. This works by shining a near-infrared light into the scalp to look at the fluctuations of the oxygenation of the blood in certain brain regions. This will show where brain is flowing while the participants are performing or engaging or viewing certain material. Similar to a functional magnetic resonance imaging, but a lot more leeway in terms of what the researchers can measure. Also, after viewing the explicit material, the participants were asked to fill out a questionnaire to gauge their emotional state and current well-being. So, pornography is the new soma. And high-frequency pornography use in particular has dire effects on the brain, and this is what the researchers want to find out. So the first finding is that high-frequency pornography use affects the brain similar to opioids. So the same effects that opioid users feel, which is euphoria, relaxation, and blunting of awareness. Now, those same effects are felt in those who view high content pornography. So they're getting a high. They're also numbing their emotions, they're blunting their awareness, and they're evoking a euphoric feeling. So it's no different than seeking a high. There's endogenous opioids released in the body that produce a feel-good feeling, but also it quells anxiety and lowers our awareness of the immediate environment that we're in. The study also reveals that there's a heightened physiological response in those who have a high frequency use of pornography, and the facial expressions exhibit a higher or a greater range of fluctuations in emotions from anger to sad to happiness. And the facial expressions also show greater delight in viewing the pornographic material in comparison to the low frequency group. So the results here with cognitive performance is that the cognitive performance declined in both groups after they viewed the pornography. This is the key takeaway. Pornography use alone reduces cognitive function after viewing. So immediately after viewing, our cognitive functioning is reduced in both groups. But here's a takeaway. In the high frequency group, the cognitive functioning was reduced more drastically than those in the low frequency group. And not only did the high frequency group's cognitive function drop lower than the comparison group, but also lower than their own baseline level that they achieved in the Stroop color word test prior to viewing the explicit matter. So what's the takeaway here? What are the results? What can we make of these findings? Well, high frequency consumption of porn leads to lower reaction times, disrupted ability to regulate emotions, and less ability to manage conflicting information in our cognitive environment. So the high frequency group show activity in the same regions of the brain implicated in drug addiction. The high frequency group also demonstrated higher levels of physiological arousal, so that would be activation of the sympathetic nervous system, and patterns similar to those exhibited in opioid users, so similar to drug users. Now, in contrast, the low frequency users display more diverse and flexible reactive expressions to the material, so showing sensitivity, while the high frequency group displayed emotionally flat or vacant and neutral expressions when viewing the material, which displays a desensitization that's happening in the brain when viewing explicit matter over repeated periods of use. And I talk about this in a previous video, which I'll link at the end, that talks about desensitization to violent and sexually explicit material over repeated use, and also the effect of mirror neurons on social learning and learning what behaviors are acceptable versus what behaviors are not acceptable by observing others. So the key takeaways here are cognitive flexibility is reduced in the high frequency users, and also there's a desensitization effect. And finally, I'm going to leave with a quote from the researchers. Moreover, individuals who frequently consume internet pornography report that they experience stronger sexual arousal and heightened pleasure while viewing, which subsequently adversely affects their cognition and emotions. Further research is needed to follow up on these preliminary findings. What do I have to say about this? These research findings are in alignment with what I've come to learn and know about high frequency pornography use through my own experience and through the literature that's available on porn use currently. So there's some limitations with this study, mainly the small sample size, but also the fact that the high frequency participant group is more representative of relatively moderate users of pornography. So these aren't extreme cases of pornography users. These are more of the moderate users, because the research limitations due to ethical and practical considerations of finding participants with extreme frequency use of pornographic material is difficult to acquire. It's hard to find people who are willing to participate in these studies who exhibit extreme use patterns. Now, if you disagree with me, I want you to leave a comment down below. And if this finding shocks you, or maybe you're not surprised at all because you've known this all along, I also want you to leave a comment. So I hope this video finds you well. Give me a like and subscribe, and check out this video for more.